What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down what's going on with the overall market and how this may affect NIO, and also why tomorrow is going to be a very critical day for the stock price because we need to see NIO break and hold one of these very important resistances, because if it fails, it will likely see a lot more downside very soon. Now, before I break anything down about what's going on in the markets, how this may affect NIO, and also what just came out, as we have a very nice piece of news affecting NIO's collaborations, I do have to mention a couple of things before saying anything. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100, you're guaranteed 7 free stocks. This offer ends in just 4 days. I also have another offer for you guys, and that's the Weeble link down below and in the description. If you sign up and deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. Each could be worth up to $3,000. This is all a limited time offer. Both of these offers end in just 4 days, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So anyways, when it comes to NIO is down about 1.54% for the day. I did predict that NIO would come down. I thought NIO would come very close to filling this gap today, if not completing it. We did actually come close, but we didn't actually completely fill the gap just yet. I believe if you look at what the market's doing right now, we did actually show a little bit of weakness in a way, because we saw SPY essentially, and not just SPY, but also NASDAQ. I will talk about NASDAQ in a couple of seconds, but when it comes to SPY, this thing basically came down in the very beginning. We had a nice gap up in the very beginning, and then we saw this thing eventually come down just like this, got a nice balance intraday, then it pulled back just a little bit. So pretty boring, kind of anticlimactic, nothing too big that happened. But in my opinion, I want to just break down the fact that on the daily chart, we're still sandwiched between the 50 and the 200 moving averages. And this is very important because we've been stuck here for the past 7 trading days, just back and forth between the 50 and the 200. If we reject off this 399 level, and we did actually reject off like 398, very close to it today, this thing could come all the way down to retest the 200 moving average. This could actually happen as the market drags down a little bit more. If that happens, this is going to be bearish for the markets and also for NIO. Now on the QQQ, things are actually a little bit different. On the QQQ, you can actually see that this thing had a red day today. The reason this is important is because the QQQ is starting to show a little bit more weakness than SPY, and it did actually get rejected off the major resistance between 310 and 313. So now that it got the rejection, it actually did close just under 309, which is another important level of support. If it continues to drop, we have to watch this very important 306 level. It might retest this and then try to bounce off of that. But we have to see it try to hold 306 at this point, because if it fails, we're going to see the MACD get tighter, and we might start to see this thing downtrend even more from there. That's why it's a very important level. We also have this gap. I don't know if we filled this gap. Let me just double check that. I think there's an unfilled gap on the QQQ. What's important about this as well is the fact that as this thing continues to drop, it looks like we actually filled the gap. So never mind about the gap, but 306 is going to be super important. I believe, however, tech is starting to show some signs of weakness. Even Tesla gapped up, but did end up slowing down as the day went on. Overall, this will negatively affect NIO and its performance. Even Apple closed a little bit in the red. So I believe tomorrow the market's likely going to pull back just a little bit, and we might see NIO come all the way down to this 8.7 area. I would love to see NIO hold this, as this has actually been a very important support zone. But if it fails to hold this, this is very important. If it fails, it's going to come all the way down to the mid to low 8s, and then it may have even more downside. That's why it must try to hold very close to where the support is. It's very critical. What's good about NIO is on the 1 hour time frame, we're on the verge of getting a crossover on the MACD. So there's a good chance that NIO might fill this gap, then try to bounce off 8.7 and kind of hold up until then. Now, if that's the case, I just want to note that we have deliveries coming out in just a couple of days. So even if NIO does start like tanking a bit or slowing down, that's going to be okay if NIO gets a very, very strong deliveries report. NIO is telling us to expect 250,000 deliveries for the year. That may sound unrealistic to a lot of people, but I believe NIO could achieve over 200,000 at the very least. To achieve that, they need to show very, very big growth every single month in deliveries. There's a chance NIO can achieve that. Now, what I also want to mention is what I believe could end up playing out for the markets. I want to note that SPY continues to actually show signs of rejection off the 50 moving average. And I believe there's a good chance, now that this is happening, that SPY might come down for another trap, just like last week. I wouldn't be surprised if, when you look at the options chain, there aren't too many options expiring for the next couple of days. So I wouldn't be surprised if they actually let SPY come down for the next few days. And they actually let SPY come down to like 390 or so. We just continue to downtrend for maybe Tuesday and maybe Wednesday as well, so that by the time we get closer to Friday, as the market's undervalued, they start pumping the market once again, just like what happened last week. I wouldn't be surprised if they do that, because we have over 1.6 million puts expiring on Friday, with 395 being max pain and a 2.6 put to call ratio. So my prediction for the week is, once again, it depends on what SPY does between these moving averages, but my guess, or my best bet, would be we pull back Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Then we start to see this thing kind of consolidate on Thursday, then get a nice bounce on Friday to squeeze shorts. That's exactly what the market makers tend to do. So be prepared for it. Now, many people could also argue that we could have this like inverse head and shoulders. Not counting on that. I want to note that on the daily, we have the 50 moving average as resistance. If we break above this, that would be very bullish for the markets. So far, we haven't done it. Make sure you watch that just in case, this 399 level on SPY, because sometimes unexpected things can happen. I just want you guys to know about that. But once again, that's just like a more bullish possibility. I'm just trying to tell you the odds favor that the market's most likely going to pull back first and then bounce. Once again, just be prepared for anything. But now I want to talk about NIO. NIO just signed a new 5-year agreement. And this actually links NIO to a very, very important Chinese auto parts giant. And this is actually known as a Chinese-based die casting supplier known as Wencan Group. Is this good news? I would say yes, but at the same time, nothing too massive came from it. The share price did not really pop too much off of it, but these collaborations are going to help NIO with the development of their die casting systems, also their parts for their products, and this will actually help them improve and become more efficient on a day-to-day basis. They could even integrate low carbon products, collaborate on supply, digitalization, globalization, and other factors like that. As far as NIO goes, price price ratio is relatively low. It likes to base around here, so I could see NIO trying to bounce a bit later on, maybe off deliveries. But until then, it may continue to trade sideways as we get closer to it. Right now, there's not much else. We do tend to be green about 55% of the time on Tuesdays. I'm hoping for something good off of this. And finally, the short interest did see another increase on Friday, with over 5 million shares shorted almost. So what am I predicting for NIO? Once again, my prediction for NIO is we're going to come down to this 8.7 zone and fill the gap. Now, the more bullish possibility would be if NIO could break $9 and continue to hold that. If that happens, NIO has the potential to break 9.5, then 9.7. But the more bearish possibility is going to be if NIO fills this gap and then breaks below 8.7 and just starts tanking to like 8.3. I'm not really seeing that as of right now. My prediction is kind of a mix between both of them, that NIO does come down to fill this gap around 8.7, maybe gets to about the 8.6s, then tries to bounce, and we close somewhere around 8.7. Not too red, as NIO is still holding up quite well. So that's what I'm essentially predicting. I thank each and every one of you for listening. Please remain calm, cool, and collected. And remember, these drops in NIO are a very, very good sign for the long term, because NIO will become more and more affordable for more investors, and more larger returns could be made in the process. Thank you all for listening. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon, because the long-term future is still incredibly bright, and peace out.